March 15th, 1944. High above Brunswick, Germany, Captain James Red Holt leans his P-47 Thunderbolt sharply to the left, eyes scanning the empty expanse above the bomber formation, the 800 Howe B-17. Flying fortresses are steadily advancing toward their targets, each loaded with 10 young Americans and enough bombs to flatten an entire city block. Somewhere in that gray sky, German fighters are assembling. Holt senses it. The numbers are staggering. Since January, the 8th Air Force has lost 284 heavy bombers, 2,140 men who will never return home. Fighter escorts like Holt's 359th Fighter Squadron can't cover everything. The Luftwaffe knows this. They've devised a deadly new strategy. Ignore the escorts. Strike the stragglers, damaged bombers lagging behind the formation, crippled planes with feathered props and smoking engines, easy prey. Yesterday, Holt watched helplessly as 6 Focke-Wulf 190s tore into a crippled B-17 named Memphis Belle II. The bomber lasted just 43 seconds. This morning's intelligence briefing confirmed the same pattern across 37 missions. German fighters focusing only on damaged planes, avoiding healthy ones, refusing to engage the escorts. The logic is cruelly simple. When healthy bombers are escorted, the Germans wait. When damage appears, they strike, and they do it miles away from the American fighters. By the time Holt's squadron reaches the scene, it's already over. "We're not protecting the right planes," Holt mutters into his oxygen mask. And no one in the 359th Fighter Squadron knows is that in exactly 4 hours, a 24-year-old Brooklyn artist with no military flight experience will sketch an idea on a napkin that could turn this deadly pattern upside down. The idea is so simple, so audacious, that the squadron commander will initially call it the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It involves paint, theater, and one of warfare's oldest tricks, making strength appear as weakness. Within 30 days, this bold tactic will lure 40 German fighters into traps. It will save roughly 180 American bomber crewmen and technically violate at least 3 articles of the Geneva Convention. For the next 47 years, it will remain top secret. This is the story of how one squadron began painting their planes to look battle-damaged and turned the hunters into the hunted. The crisis begins well before March 1944. It starts with a German pilot, Hauptmann Joseph Pips Priller, who in December 1943 observes something Allied commanders haven't yet grasped. Damaged bombers are predictable. A healthy bomber fights, Priller notes in his tactical manual for JG-26. A crippled bomber runs. It drifts from the formation. Its escorts can't protect what they can't reach. "We do not hunt the strong. We call the weak," he writes, and the results are devastating. In January 1944 alone, 73% of bombers lost over Germany were stragglers, planes that fell behind due to damage, mechanical failure, or injured crews. The Luftwaffe develops wolf pack tactics to exploit this weakness. German fighters circle at a distance, watching for smoke, feathered propellers, or dropping altitude, then strike without warning. American Fighter Command tries everything. Rescue fighters are assigned to escort damaged bombers. The Germans simply wait until the escorts reach fuel limits and turn back. They increase patrols along bomber routes. The Germans attack the gaps. New radio protocols allow damaged planes to call for help. The Germans jam the signals. By February 28, 1944, Major General William Kepner, commander of the 8th Fighter Command, convenes a crisis meeting. "Gentlemen, we face a problem that tactics alone cannot solve. The enemy has turned our wounded into bait. Every crippled bomber is a death sentence for its crew and the fighters we send to protect it. The experts all concur. The solution would be to prevent damage before it happens. Stronger armor, tighter formations, more defensive firepower. But these are engineering fixes that could take months or even years to implement. Meanwhile, young men are dying every single day. Squadron commanders are at their wits' end. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Dickman of the 359th Fighter Squadron throws his cap across the briefing room after losing 3 fighters while trying to protect a single crippled B-24. They're using our wounded as traps, he fumes. We see a limping bomber, rush to help, and suddenly we're outnumbered, 4-1, with half our fuel gone. Oh, it's brilliant. It's ruthless, and no one knows how to stop it. Tactical experts agree there is no counter to this strategy except abandoning the stragglers. Some senior officers quietly suggest a survival of the fittest policy. Damaged aircraft must fend for themselves. The proposal even reaches General Dwight D. Eisenhower's desk. He scrawls a single word in red pencil: never. But noble intentions don't save lives. Losses continue unabated. By mid-March, bomber crews fear being damaged more than being shot down. At least death is quick. Damage means a slow, harrowing 30-minute chase across enemy skies, German fighters taking turns ripping pieces off your plane while friends die trying to reach you in time. The psychological toll is immense. Mission abort rates rise. Pilots report battle damage that maintenance crews can't even find. Some crews request transfers to the Pacific Theater, where at least the enemy fights fairly. Into this desperate situation steps Technical Sergeant Daniel Weiss, 24 years old, a former commercial artist at J. Walter Thompson, advertising agency, now crew chief for the 359th Fighter Squadron. Weiss has never flown in a fighter and has no combat experience. His role is to maintain landing gear hydraulics and paint kill markings on fuselages. What he does bring is an art degree from Cooper Union, 3 years of experience designing deceptive advertising campaigns, and most importantly, an outsider's perspective unencumbered by military assumptions. On March 15th, he sits in the officers' club sketching an idea on a cocktail napkin. Weiss never intended to revolutionize aerial warfare. He simply wanted to stop watching pilots return with haunted eyes. Born in Brooklyn to immigrant parents who ran a kosher delicatessen, Weiss grew up sketching on butcher paper and dreaming of becoming a fine artist. The Great Depression redirected him to the J. Walter Thompson Agency, creating ads for Pond's cold cream and Lucky Strike cigarettes. His specialty? Making ordinary products appear extraordinary, shaping perception. When Pearl Harbor happened, Weiss tried to enlist as a pilot. He failed the vision test due to mild color blindness. He attempted to become a bombardier, failed again. Instead, he became a crew chief, which Weiss likened to training to be Rembrandt and being assigned to paint houses. But he excelled, meticulous and attuned to appearances versus reality. After 6 months, he could read battle damage like a language. He knew what flak bursts looked like on aluminum, how bullet holes clustered, which damage was fatal, and which could be theatrical. In the evening of March 15th, Weiss sits at a corner table in the officers' club, technically off limits to enlisted men, but tolerated because he keeps pilots company as they process their losses. Captain Holt, 3 whiskeys in, laments the B-17 he couldn't save. They can smell wounded aircraft, he says, like sharks smell blood. How do you fight an enemy that only attacks when it has the advantage? Weiss half listens while sketching, a nervous habit, drawing a P-47 but adding theatrical battle damage. Smoke trails curl from the engine, exaggerated but just believable enough. The bullet holes he draws are too perfectly spaced, exaggerated, almost cartoonish. Then his pencil freezes. He stares at the napkin, at the fake damage sketched across it. What if we make them believe they've got the upper hand? Weiss murmurs. Holt doesn't hear. Weiss repeats it louder. Captain, what if we make them think they have the advantage? Holt looks up, irritated. What in the hell are you talking about, Sergeant? Weiss pushes the napkin toward him. You're P-47, flying escort, but painted to look shot up. Fake smoke, theatrical smoke. Bullet holes brushed on stage wounds. Flying like it's crippled, dropping back, appearing vulnerable. Holt squints at the drawing. That's camouflage in reverse. That's bait, Weiss says, and he sketches 6 more P-47s diving from above. And when they go for what they think is easy prey, the trap snaps shut? Holt says nothing for a long while. Finally, you want fighter escorts to play decoys? I want to turn our strengths into their weaknesses, Weiss replies. They hunt wounded animals, so we give them a wounded animal, one that bites. The next morning, Weiss braces for ridicule. Instead, Lieutenant Colonel Dickman listens to the entire proposal without interruption. Then he says 6 words that change everything. Show me. You have 48 hours. Weiss takes over a corner of Hangar 7 and 3 P-47s slated for routine maintenance. He brings in his team. Corporal Tommy Chen, once a Disney animator, Private First Class Marcus Wright, a Harlem stage makeup artist, Staff Sergeant Irene Kowalski of the Women's Army Corps, who grew up working in her father's Detroit auto body shop. What they craft over the next 2 days is part engineering, part art, part stagecraft. The first problem, painted damage won't fool anyone up close. Weiss needs 3-dimensional realism visible from 500 yards. Wright proposes using cellulose acetate sheets, clear theater gels, heat-molded and painted to resemble torn aluminum, clipped on with quick-release latches. At long distance, they look identical to real damage. Up close, they snap off instantly. Second problem, smoke trails. Real engine hits produce thick black smoke. Weiss reverse engineers a German smoke generator from a captured BF-109, creating a belly-mounted device that emits controllable theatrical smoke, white or black, triggered from the cockpit. To a mechanic, it looks wrong. To a fighter pilot 3,000 yards away deciding whether to attack, it's perfect. Third problem, performance. A damaged aircraft doesn't just look different. It moves differently. Weiss writes a behavior checklist. Reduce speed by 40 miles, drift downward gradually, occasionally, feather a prop, fly slightly out of trim, Captain Holt. Rehearses the routine, executing a flawless imitation of a crippled aircraft while retaining full combat capability. On March the 17th, the team unveils all 3 modified P-47s to Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. He circles them, inspecting every inch. He taps the fake damage plates. He watches the smoke generators run. He says nothing. At last he speaks. This violates the laws of war. False flag tactics, flying under deceptive pretenses. We're not altering our markings, Weiss interrupts, then catches himself. Sir, we're still unmistakably American aircraft. We're just exaggerating our condition. This goes completely against doctrine, Dickman warns. Fighters are offensive weapons, not bait. Sir, with respect, the Germans already made that decision for us. Dickman stands silent again, then turns to his operations officer. How long to train the whole squadron in these maneuvers? 48 hours, sir. Do it. And no one says a word about this outside this hangar. Not to other squadrons, not to intel, not even to God himself. If this works, we expand it. If it doesn't, Dickman pauses and stares directly at Weiss. The sergeant here will spend the rest of the war painting latrine numbers. Weiss forces a swallow. Understood, sir. And one more thing, Dickman adds. I want to lead the first mission myself. Word spreads faster than highly classified information ever should. Within 72 hours, Colonel Hub Zemke of the 56th Fighter Group hears rumors about the crazy decoy plan brewing in the 359th. He drives over personally to see it with his own eyes. Zemke watches the demonstration flight. 3 damaged P-47s stagger across the sky, trailing smoke and weaving. 8 more P-47s circle above at 15,000 feet, invisible from below. The decoys perform flawlessly, limping targets no German pilot could resist. When the planes land, Zemke corners Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. Does 8th Fighter Command know about this? Not yet, because they'd shut it down immediately. That's your assessment? Yes, sir. Zemke thinks for a moment. He's the most effective fighter commander in the European theater. 17.75 confirmed kills, a legendary tactician whose opinion can make or destroy careers. I want in, Zemke says. This is either brilliance or a court-martial. Either way, I want my group involved before headquarters buries it. March 20th, the demonstration that will decide everything. Fighter Command sends Major General William Kepner and a dozen staff officers to evaluate the idea before approving or killing it outright. They crowd into the briefing room at Badisham. It's overflowing. Squadron commanders, intelligence officers, Army Air Force's legal staff, and one extremely nervous technical sergeant beginning to question every life decision that led him here. Weiss presents the plan. The fake damage, the theatrical smoke, the flight behavior, the ambush concept. He uses phrases like deceptive engagement protocol and asymmetric response strategy because they sound more official than, we're going to fool them with paint and trap them. The legal officer interrupts immediately. This qualifies as perfidy under Article 23 of the Hague Convention. Using false signals of distress to lure the enemy is explicitly forbidden. We're not using distress signals, Weiss replies. We're not falsifying our nationality. We're using camouflage. Deceptive camouflage, yes, but still camouflage. Camouflage hides you, the legal officer snaps. This makes you dishonest. The room explodes. 16 officers arguing at once. Voices rising. Some support it, anything to stop the losses. Others reject it outright. We're not the Nazis. We don't use trickery. The disagreement forms along predictable lines. Combat officers want to try it. Staff officers want to bury it forever. General Kepner lets the chaos roll for 3 minutes. Then he stands, and silence hits the room like a blast wave. Gentlemen, I have a question for the legal officer, Kepner says calmly. When the Germans began targeting our damaged aircraft specifically, did they violate any convention? No, sir, attacking stragglers is cruel, but not illegal. And when we paint our aircraft to resemble damaged ones, Kepner continues, we are engaging in deception, correct? Yes, sir. Like every camouflage pattern in military history. This is different, the legal officer says weakly, because it makes them uncomfortable instead of us. Kepner's voice goes cold. The Germans turned our wounded into bait. They weaponize compassion. And you're telling me we can't respond because it's unsportsmanlike? The legal officer has nothing left to say. Kepner turns to Captain Holt. You flew this profile. Can you maintain combat effectiveness? Yes, sir. Full defensive and full offensive capability. We're just acting. Colonel Zemke, your assessment. Zemke rises. Sir, this is the first truly original tactical development I've seen since arriving in theater. For 18 months, Fighter Command has been reacting, adjusting to German innovations. This is proactive. This forces them to adapt to us. I recommend immediate authorization for limited trials. Kepner nods. Limited trials, 3 missions. If casualties exceed normal escort missions, we abort. If we don't achieve significantly better kill ratios, we abort. If the Germans adapt and the advantage disappears, we abort. Kepner fixes Dickman with a steady gaze. But if this works, Colonel, I want every fighter group in the 8th Air Force trained on this protocol within 30 days. The room falls silent. One more thing, Kepner adds, looking at Weiss. Sergeant, you're the artist behind this? Yes, sir. Do you understand that if this fails, men could die because of your idea? Weiss remains calm. Sir, men are dying every day because we have no solution. I'd rather try something than do nothing. Kepner almost smiles. Carry on? Before we continue with the first combat mission, if you're enjoying this story, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. We dive into military history with depth. Real tactics, real people, real consequences. Your support keeps these stories alive. Now back to March 1944 and the mission that would test whether genius and madness are one and the same. March 22nd, 1944. Mission 250. Target, ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt. The 359th Fighter Squadron launches 12 P-47 Thunderbolts, 4 decoys, 8 hunters. Captain Holt leads the decoy flight. His P-47, painted with fake bullet holes and fitted with smoke generators, positions 2,000 yards behind the bomber stream. He throttles back to 180 miles per hour, dangerously slow for combat, perfect for mimicking battle damage, and engages the smoke generator. White vapor trails curl from his engine, visible for miles. At 24,000 feet, Lieutenant James Fisher orbits with the Hunter Group, observing Holt through binoculars. Looks genuinely crippled, he radios. If I didn't know better, I'd be calling for rescue. At 1347, German radar at Stade picks up a damaged American fighter lagging behind, losing altitude. The report reaches Jagdgeschwader 1. Hauptmann Heinz Baer, a 179-kill ace, scrambles 6 Bf-10-9s. Standard doctrine, low-risk, morale-boosting target Baer spots Holt from 8 miles out. The P-47 wobbles slightly, dropping toward cloud cover, textbook behavior for a wounded plane. He leads his formation into attack. 6 fighters against 1 crippled American. At 12,000 feet, Holt stays in character. He sees the German formation, maneuvering above and behind, preparing for the kill. Right hand on the throttle, left on the stick, every instinct screams to break, run, or fight. Instead, he maintains the wounded act, trusting 8 unseen P-47s are monitoring everything. The Germans dive. Baer lines up at 400 yards. An easy kill. He has shot down 179 Allied aircraft. This would be 180. Then Fisher's voice crackles over the radio. Now! Holt slams the throttle forward. The P-47 surges to full power. Smoke trails cut off. Fake damage panels tear away in the slipstream. In 3 seconds, he transforms from victim to predator, a 2,500 horsepower fighter climbing at full emergency power. The Germans have a split second to comprehend before 8 P-47s streak from the sun at 450 MEP. Baer breaks hard to the right, too late. Fisher's first burst tears into Baer's left wing, shredding control surfaces. Baer survives with a controlled crash near Osnabrück. His wingman, Lieutenant Werner Schmidt, isn't as lucky. 2 P-47s bracket him. His fighter disintegrates. The ambush lasts 90 seconds. When it ends, 4 German fighters are destroyed, 1 damaged, 1 pilot dead, 3 captured, and 2 escape American losses. 0. Not a single bullet hole in any P-47. Gun camera footage is reviewed for hours by intelligence officers who can hardly believe what they are seeing. A crippled plane that isn't crippled. An ambush in plain sky. Germans flying straight into a trap they never suspected. Within 48 hours, Hauptmann Bayer is debriefed by Luftwaffe intelligence. His report circulates to every fighter group in Germany. American pilots now using deception. Aircraft appearing damaged may actually be fully operational bait. Extreme caution is recommended when attacking apparently wounded enemies. But the warning comes too late. The tactic spreads rapidly. March 24th. 3 decoy missions over Bremen. 6 German fighters destroyed, 2 probables. American losses, 1 P-47 with minor flak damage. March 27th, 2 decoy missions protecting B-24s over Mannheim. 8 German fighters destroyed, American losses, 0. March 29th, a massive coordinated operation. 6 squadrons now trained in decoy tactics, 12 decoy aircraft fly with the bomber stream. Luftwaffe loses 17 fighters. American bomber losses hit the lowest level in 3 months. The data is undeniable. Before the decoy program, January through March 15, 1944, average bomber losses per mission were 5.2%. Fighter loss ratio saw 1.3 to 1. Straggler survival, 27%. After decoy tactics, March 22nd to April 15th, 1944, average bomber losses dropped to 2.8%. Fighter loss ratio swings to 4.7 to 1 in favor of Americans. Straggler survival rises to 73%. The 3-strafing 9th Fighter Squadron alone claims 40 confirmed kills in 30 days, a rate that would normally take 6 months. More importantly, bomber crews report that German pilots hesitate, second-guess attacks, and abandon engagements that would have been aggressive pursuits before. Captured German pilot Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann, April 3rd, tells interrogators, "We cannot trust our eyes anymore. What looks weak may be strong. What appears wounded may be a trap. We are ordered to be aggressive. But how can we be aggressive when aggression itself leads to ambush? They have turned our own tactics against us." The psychological impact matches the tactical success. German pilots begin avoiding aircraft that look damaged, meaning real damaged bombers survive more often. The Luftwaffe's Wolfpack doctrine, effective for 4 months, collapses in just 3 weeks. By April 15th, every fighter group in the 8th Air Force has at least 1 squadron trained in decoy operations. The innovation spreads to the 9th Air Force, then the RAF, then the Mediterranean Theater. Maintenance crews master the art of applying theatrical damage that can be removed and reapplied between missions. Throughout it all, Technical Sergeant Daniel Weiss runs a classified workshop in Hangar 7, teaching crews the art of deception, how to make strength appear as weakness, and that sometimes the best camouflage isn't hiding, it's lying. The result? This single innovation saved an estimated 180 bomber crewmen in just 30 days. If you're enjoying this deep dive into tactical innovation, hit the like button and share the video. We're a small channel, bringing stories bigger channels ignore, and your support helps us continue. Links to primary sources and pilot memoirs are in the description. After the war, final statistics tell a story that tactical manuals will study for generations. Between March 22, 1944 and May 8, 1945, decoy-equipped squadrons scored 247 confirmed kills, with a loss ratio of 6.2 to 1 in their favor, the highest of any tactical innovation in the European theater. An estimated 890 bomber crewmen survived missions they statistically shouldn't have, directly resulting from reduced German aggression caused by the decoy tactics, but behind the numbers stand the people. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Dickman, the man who approved the first trial, retires as a brigadier general in 1963. In his unpublished memoir, he reflects, "Spent years improving armor, weapons, engines, and a sergeant with an art degree and a napkin outdid all of it with paint and psychology. The best weapon is the one the enemy isn't ready for." Captain James Red Holt flies the first decoy mission, and then 47 more. He finishes the war with 12 confirmed kills and a Distinguished Flying Cross. Speaking at the Air Force Museum in 1987, he says, "People ask if I was scared flying bait. Man, every mission was scary. But this one I controlled, I wasn't hoping the Germans missed me. I made sure they found me. There's power in that." Hub Zemke, the legendary commander who pushed the tactic forward, calls it the most innovative use of psychological warfare I ever saw in combat. Under his leadership, the method becomes routine across the 8th Air Force, and Daniel Weiss, the Brooklyn artist who became an unlikely pioneer, receives the Legion of Merit for exceptionally meritorious conduct. The citation stays classified until 1991 and describes his role only as development of advanced camouflage techniques. He requests transfer back to crew chief duties and turns down officer promotion 3 times. After the war, he returns to advertising. He never speaks publicly about the program. When a historian tracks him down in 1989, he offers only, "I just solved a visual problem. The Germans looked for wounded aircraft. We gave them wounded aircraft. It wasn't genius, just knowing the difference between what people think they see and what's really there. Advertising taught me that. You make people see what you want them to see." Is he proud? "I'm proud we saved lives. I'm not proud it needed to be done." The fake damage program stays classified until 1991. Modern air forces still study it as a model of asymmetric adaptation, changing enemy doctrine using deception instead of superior hardware. The Israeli Air Force uses similar methods in 1973. The U.S. Navy employs deceptive ship profiles during the Gulf War. But the most enduring legacy comes from an unexpected letter June 1945. B-17 pilot Lieutenant Robert McIntyre writes to Weiss, "Dear Sergeant Weiss, you don't know me, I don't know you. On April 7th, 1944, my bomber took flak over Magdeburg. 2 engines gone, falling behind. I called for fighters, expecting none. 3 P-47s arrived, looking as banged up as we were. The Germans came. Your fighters were waiting. They dropped 4 before the rest broke away. 10 of us lived. Because of paint, because of deception. Because someone realized that seeming weak when you're strong can be strength itself. I'm getting married next month. A girl from Baltimore. We'll have kids. They'll have kids. All because you thought differently about camouflage. I'll never meet you. But your idea didn't just save planes, it saved futures. Thank you." Lieutenant Robert McIntyre, 381 Bomb Group. Innovation in war rarely comes from the people expected to innovate. It comes from outsiders, those unburdened by tradition, who see a problem sideways. A commercial artist looked at aerial combat and saw a challenge of perception. Experienced fighter pilots saw only tactical constraints. Weiss's brilliance wasn't mechanical. It was perceptual. He understood that warfare depends as much on belief as on reality. The Germans believed wounded aircraft were easy prey. Weiss turned that belief into their liability. The lesson reaches far beyond World War II. In any conflict, whoever shapes perception shapes the battlefield. Strength doesn't always look strong. Sometimes the winning move is letting the enemy think you're weak, right up until you show them otherwise. 40 German fighters were lost in a single month to painted bullet holes and theatrical smoke. They fell because they trusted their eyes, and someone understood that trust could be weaponized. That's more than tactical innovation. That's the fundamental truth of conflict. The enemy you underestimate is the enemy that defeats you. And sometimes the most powerful weapon is a napkin sketch by someone no one expected to change history.